Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
everybody.
My name is Joe,
My name is Olaris.
and we're going to be your host for today. Today, we are interviewing Johnny Burrow.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the very first question, which is how old were you when you realized that this was your calling?
Whoa, that is a good question. I mean, it's just been so much a part of my life that I can't even pinpoint one moment. I grew up a pastor's kid, and my dad led worship in every church that he started. And I started playing in his bands when I was 11 years old. So I can't remember a time when I wasn't either tagging along with him to musical endeavors, to camps, to conferences, to worship nights. And then I can't remember a time that I wasn't playing music and taking on the next thing that happened. I hate to say that I kind of have just stumbled through each thing that's come. I never like had a moment where I'm like, okay, now this is it. I'm a musician. It's just like, continued to fall forward into whatever the next thing was.
Yeah. The path set itself out.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
What is your favorite memory that you could think back to of all time?
There's so many memories. I mean, like I said, grew up like playing music with my dad. And actually, one of my favorite musical memories was there was a week at our church that they had revival services, and every night they had music till like 1 or 2 in the morning. And my dad let me like tag along to those things, and I'd fall asleep on the floor like while they were all still playing. And one of the nights, my dad was like, "You can play the congas in the band," and I was like, "Oh my god, like this is my moment." So I'm like in the very back of the stage, and we already had a conga player, but I was like also playing congas, but nobody could hear me. I was like 7 years old maybe, and the conga player, that the main one, had to leave. And my dad was like, "You can go to the front, congas," and I was like, "What?" So I like walked up, and like during the rest of the service was, nobody actually cared or could hear what I was doing, but I thought I was God, worshiping God. Like I was just like, I'm a rock star playing these congas. So I'll never forget that. It was so fun.
The genre that you are working on right now, is that something that was introduced to you at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite stories. I've told it to different people, but my one of my favorite things as a kid was the California Raisins, which was actually just a advertisement ploy by the California Raisin Company. They made these little claymation raisins. They sang "I Heard It Through the Grapevine," which is an old Marvin Gaye tune. And then that little like advertisement became like CDs and TV shows and stuff, and I grew up watching that, and I didn't know that the music that they were playing and replicating was all old Motown and Stax music, so old soul music. So without knowing, my first exposure and my first love of music was all old soul music. And then I was exposed to all kinds of stuff with my dad, but it was like deep seated in there from little claymation raisins, which you wouldn't guess that. It's not the thing that most people think when people grow up listening to soul music, that it came from claymation raisins, but it's my favorite part of my story.
And what does your creative process look like?
It just depends on how it starts. And it also depends now on the time of life. I have 2 kids now, so my creative process is so stunted and random, and like finding a space to create is like the biggest thing. And I think being a creative and working in a creative field, when you start to realize that guarding a creative space is like the most important thing you can do to give yourself time and a place that like has a presence that you're allowed to create in, is so important. So for me, it's like, first of all, for my creative process is just finding that space, finding time, finding a moment where my brain is not thinking about something else. It's just allowed to wander and create. And then inside of that, it could be a million different things. I could have a whole song idea that pops in my head. I could have just a beat that pops into my head. I could have just a line. I could have one melody. I could have a bass line. I could get into that space and have nothing, but I have a million ideas on my phone that I've recorded while driving or while walking, and I'll go to one of those, and it might just be like one melody line. It might just be a bass line. And then for me, I think one thing I learned in creating is to let that idea go as far as you possibly can without stopping it. And that's something I learned actually from a bandmate of mine, Mary Claxton, is to not second guess yourself in the initial. Just like go as far as you can with the initial creativity. Don't question it. Just keep going. And once that's finished, then you can go back and like critique it. But don't start critiquing it immediately. Don't start stopping it. Like let it go as far as it can go. And if you finish it, that's wonderful. But at least follow the path until it stops. So, I mean, it's creativity. Like everybody has a process, but the best stuff you can't plan.
Yeah.
So,
That's great advice.
yeah.
What would you say is the most difficult part about working in your profession?
Everything but playing music. So being a independent band and doing the majority of the job ourselves, the Burroughs that is, just the business aspect of it. I've watched too many documentaries where people quit because they're like, I love music, but the business aspect is terrible. And I would 100% agree. You have to really love the music because all the work that goes into just being able to play or just being able to create or just being able to release something that people can hear is the worst. And the modern world of constant content and connection and social media is like kind of crushing to me. Like I kind of hate it. A lot of people thrive in it. Like I love that people thrive in it. I do not. I like the live shows. I like creating with my band in the moment. I thrive off of that. I thrive at the live shows, being connected with people. So all the stuff around the making of the music is the worst part.
And do you have any advice for other bands or other artists?
You have to love the good parts, and then you have to just work your ass off on the other stuff. And I mean, luck comes into it. And a lot of the people that are big worked really hard and got lucky. And a lot of people that have careers that you would look at and be like, oh, well, you're not really big, but they have a sustained career. It's because they worked hard. So enjoy the stuff that you love and just understand that a lot of it is just working on stuff you don't.
What is a valuable lesson that life has taught you about being an artist?
That's a good question. I think a valuable lesson that life has taught me about being an artist is that there's no right way to do it. I've just been a part of too many arguments of people arguing like, what is artistic, what's art, what's like worth people consuming. When it comes to music, it's like, well, this song is fake. Like what they're singing about didn't really happen to their life. They made up that whole story, or like these people are too earnest and it's always sad. And it just realizing that like nothing's off limits. Everything is fair game. If you want to create a character and write all of your songs from a character that does not exist and is not you and like is a completely different person to you, but you get to live in that world when you create, great. If you want your songs to be so autobiographical that people know everything about you, great. And anything in between is good. So biggest lesson for me is like nothing's off limits and nothing is wrong. So just go out and make stuff.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
And what is one thing people don't really know about you that you wish they did know?
If I'm being honest, I want no one to know anything about me ever. The band makes fun of me because I am so opposed to people knowing things about me. But what's one thing people don't know about me that I wish they did know?
Mysterious.
Wow, that just seems like snooty to be like, they should know that I'm mysterious. This is just fun and stupid. Growing up, I still do. I love hockey. I played competitive roller hockey for the majority of my teenage years, and I was a goalie, and I loved it. And I thought I was going to be a professional goalie, even though I never stepped out on the ice. I thought maybe I'd make it there somehow. But I think really in my mind, if I didn't go the way of music, I still secretly really wish I was a professional player in any sport. Basketball, football, baseball, hockey. But I'm too fat and slow. So
And then this one's kind of a deeper question, but what qualities do you most admire about yourself that had also added growth to your career?
yeah, I think the quality that I most like about myself is if given the space, the time, and just the like littlest bit of spark, like I can get excited about the smallest idea and make it into the biggest idea and be 100% for it. And even when other people are like, I don't know, like I feel this like drive to make it as great as it possibly can be. And I think that's something I've learned to not like wither in myself, even against, people who may be more realist, but actually to understand, especially working in a collaborative sense, that when you are working with someone who might start poking holes, it's a chance for both of you to like find where that idea can go. So if I start to pull back from making it big, it's going to get too small. But if they go too far, then it's going to become impossible. But working with someone and understanding that it's like, oh, if I still dream big and we work together, we're going to find like where this idea can actually live. So I think the quality of just being a big dreamer and not being afraid of it is something that I love in myself. And another something you have to guard as you get older. That was the whole last Burroughs album that we worked on. A lot of it was just talking about, guarding that childlike spirit and ability to dream. Sounds so corny.
It's not.
Good Lord.
And what are some projects that you are working on right now or hoping to work on in the future?
Well, I'd love to record new music for the Burroughs. We've been talking about that for a while. We put out but a year and a half ago, we put out an album that was our biggest kind of swing for an album ever. We did a full concept album. It was about intergalactic traveler comes to Earth and tries to figure out what it means to be human. And it was multi-layered, and like we worked on it for almost a year at like taking it home and like just going over and over the songs. So I have a surplus of about too many songs that I want to record with them. I have a surplus of songs I want to record by myself. I mean, there's so many things. If I was given the time and the money and support, I have like 2 or 3 different musicals in my head that I know would be great, and so many different projects that I think that could be amazing. But time, support, those are a whole different ball games.
And are you still sticking to the funk feel, the funk music?
With the Burroughs? Yeah, that's funk and soul is like the main part of what we do. And even though like we like grow and want to push the boundaries, like I think that'll never not be the main thing. I think our next group of songs too will probably be like way more center focused in those genres than before, with some more breakbeats in them, I think. Yeah.
Are there any artists that you would like to collaborate with?
Just like dream, just like doesn't matter. Childish Gambino. Like I just love everything that Donald Glover does. I love everything about that man. If I could move to that, he like built something out in California, like a big artist like house, like farm, and like if I could move there, I would move there tomorrow. So that would be amazing. I mean, I could say like a million. How many do you want me to say? Yeah, I'll just go with that one because that was the first one that popped in my head.
And how would you say that the Burroughs music is medicine for the community?
It's a great question. I think our music is medicine because from the very beginning, we've had the same goal as a band, no matter what kind of music we're playing or what song we're playing. And that goal is that everybody that comes in contact with us, that comes to a show or listens to us, they feel like they're a part of something bigger and they feel like life is good and it's only going to get better. It's our number one goal when people come to shows is like they walk in with whatever they've been carrying and feeling the way that they're feeling, but they walk out, even if it's just for that night, feeling like, okay, life's good and it just might get better. And I think that's what people have always attached themselves to is that energy in our music. So no matter what the song sounds like, there's a certain spirit on it that people just latch onto.
What is the heart of what you do, and what would you say is something that keeps you going?
I truly love creating. It took on a different part in my brain after COVID. During COVID, not being able to make stuff and not being able to be with the people that I liked making stuff with. Right before that, I had kind of burned out and was just exhausted from running the same game in the music business. Even it only been 6 or 7 years in the band, but you already start to see cycles happening and you kind of get tired. And then having it all stripped away, I realized that the thing I loved the most was getting to create music with this group of people that I love. And that still keeps me going. And if I didn't have the Burroughs, I don't know, I would always make something that I love because it's an addiction. I'm addicted to the moment of an idea coming and it taking hold and then starting to grow inside of you. I think there's nothing like that when you have something. And it's truly, so many people, even not spiritual people, talk about it as if it's divine because it feels like that. It just comes out of nowhere. It suddenly takes hold and it just starts to grow and your brain just starts to do incredible things with it. I'm addicted to that feeling of creation. So I'll never stop.
Being able to integrate that in any situation is so inspiring.
Most definitely.
To yourself and to others around you.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the last questions that I have for you is, in the midst of chaos and lessons, what grounds you?
I mean, my family humbles me because the majority of my life now is taking care of my 2 girls and just understanding that their lives are more important than my life because I chose to bring them to this world. They didn't choose to be here. I chose to bring them here. And now it's my job to lift them beyond myself. That humbles you all the time because you're just constantly sacrificing who you are for them. And I think that humbles me. I don't know what grounds me because I always feel pretty grounded. I never let my head get too big. But I think being humbled is an important thing. Is understanding your place and what's important. So.
And the next questions that we have are just a few audience questions. The first one is, what inspires you the most and where do you find your inspiration?
There's not one specific thing that inspires me because I write about just about anything. I could be it depends on the season. I could be in a season where I'm just writing about my wife. I could be just writing about my kids. I could just be writing about nature. I could just be writing about what I'm going through. But it's redundant, but truly what inspires me the most is the creation, the creating of something. I get inspired just knowing that feel. I get inspired watching other people make stuff. I'm addicted to watching documentaries of people creating. Doesn't matter what it is, to watch someone create something from nothing, I just absolutely love. So that most inspires me. And when I see someone creating something, then I have to go and make something. It's hard for me not to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What has been the most difficult step in becoming a creative?
I think getting over myself in so many different ways. First, getting over myself in feeling none of my ideas are worth it. They're not good enough. They're all terrible. They're not worth being made. I have to work them so hard to make them worth anybody listening to. And then getting over myself and realizing that my ideas aren't the best ideas in the world. And that's okay. And realizing that because sometimes coming into a collaborative process, I can be a steamroller because I'll think that my idea is the best idea, but understanding that working with people is going to bring something out even more beautiful than just by myself. So just getting over myself.
And another one is, what is your favorite or your least favorite part of the process, and what new things are you going to try?
Yeah, my favorite part of my process is the initial idea, which I brought back many times, but that initial spark. That's probably like my strength as a creative, is I can come up, like I have, like I kid you not, like 1,000 song ideas waiting in the wings, because I could sit down right now and just like spark a whole bunch of ideas. And I love that part of it. I love the initial spark. And then the thing I'm working on, and I always have been working on since the beginning of my creative process, is the like seeing it through to the end and not getting on to the next project too early. Like when we're working on a Burroughs album, halfway through that album, I get a whole bunch of ideas about a whole different album and a whole bunch of different songs. And I want to immediately stop this thing we're doing and go work on that because I'm more excited about it. It happens every time. I'm like, we're right in the middle of something and I'm like, oh, I have this whole other idea, but I have to stay in what we're working on and see it through to the end and see it all the way through, especially nowadays when you're an independent artist, is like you have to then see it through, not just to, I finished the creative process, but now I have to finish the getting it out into the world, making the world understand it, feeding it to people, all that. So that whole process is the one I'm working on.
And then to wrap things up for this interview, is there a message that you would like to tell the audience?
I think I've been inspired by the creatives I've gotten to work with, and watching them inspire people who don't feel like they're creative, in understanding that they can make things, that they can take something from nothing and build out of that. Watching them work with people who have no musical ability and getting them to write a song, I think has just been so inspiring to me. So I think for creatives, it's cheesy again, but trust yourself and don't critique yourself at the beginning. Follow your spark and follow your idea as far as it'll take you. And for non-creatives, there's nothing better than feeling that joy of making something from nothing. So find where that is in your life and let it bring you joy, because we all got a little bit of time and a little bit of people to be with. So making stuff and finding joy, that's a good way to spend it.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want to donate to Joe Brayan's LLC, there's going to be a link in the description. And if you want to sponsor the next video, please email me at joebrayanfilms@gmail.com. I'll give you the form and then we can go from there. Thanks. Oh, whatever. It's cool. My hair looks like it's like... bloop.
Okay, bro.
That sounds so funny on the microphone.
Wow, these are great questions. These are not the usual ones of where'd your band get started and do you like music?